we had connected around one thought at the International Convention in London, and I listened. I was a TA, or a teacher's assistant, for the room there, and was a volunteer in London. And so I had the pleasure of being assigned Lila's room. And at that time, I didn't know Lila, so it was a beautiful unfoldment. And I always believe the divine is supporting me on where I need to be. And so I had been recently single at the time I was there. So this conversation just unfolded in front of me, and it was like, yeah, I know why I'm supposed to be here. So that was lovely. And I did a lot of learning with that. So today she's going to be talking about relationships and the conversation of relationships. And so I thought, just to get us familiar in the room, I'm always one for connection. And the agenda is going to be very similar to the last time for those that are new. So I'll give a little chat around 8:45 on who I am, and then we'll have some time for open discussion for who you guys are and what you're hoping to get out of the class conversation today. And then we'll jump into Leela when she arrives at the room. So for this moment, please take your time, get yourself comfortable and organized. I call it feather your nest. Invite your friends. This is going to be a lovely connected experience of conversation. And it's always good to be in that place of comfort when we're about to receive a message that we might not have seen before. And these are the conversations that open up opportunities for us to see new and insightful experiences. And we don't know how it's going to unfold. I don't know how it's going to unfold. And that's why it's always good that I don't make a plan for it. I just show up, I get in the game, and I see what happens. So take this time to find your water. If some of you, if you're some of the longer term practitioners and the principles like to just be present, sit, listen, and take in the conversation that way. And others like to have a notepad, and they're still having some times to jot down the insightful conversations. And currently, I'm teaching a class right now, and when we had Barbara Patterson, I just couldn't. The insights just kept coming for me. So I had a whole page full, where that is not normally my MO. But I'm so glad I did, because I was able to bring some of those insights back to the class and just share some of the learnings that I was hearing. And what was really interesting is nobody was hearing the same thing. And that's because we're all living in a separate reality. We're all in the experience of our own thinking and our own mind. And so, yeah, for the purpose of just that, I'd love to have anybody come online or mention in the chat, what are you looking to get from today? What's the experience you'd really like to receive? If there was Jamie would say, the magic wand question. If we pulled out a magic wand and you were to receive something very special and fresh and unique, and maybe a word that you feel is right for you, what would that be? Kari, do you want to have a look and see if there's anybody that might want to share? And if you do, please raise your hand, because we've got some time to get to know each other. And I would certainly love to honor you and give you a platform for you to share whatever insights you're having. So,
as more people join, though, it's going to be easier if you go down to your participants button.
okay.
And when you click that at participants, there should be a raise hand under the menu there. And because I'm trying to let people in as well at the same time.
Go. That's a little high fiver. If you
there we go. Nice.
Or a little waiver, or if you really love what
that helps. Yeah. I'll put it on gallery view for now. Then
it's a little love sign. So is there anybody who would like to just say hello? Tell us where you're from, maybe some of your experience in the principles, if any, or what you're here for. Love to hear from anybody who'd like to share.
Maybe just unmute yourself.
Yeah. If you... Sandra, go ahead.
Okay. My name is Sandra Woodine, and actually I've heard a lot about the coming speaker, and I'm just looking forward to hearing from and hearing what she has to say, because I've heard a lot of great things. So, and I was unable to attend the other two, so I just find this fascinating. Kelly always puts on an amazing program.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much. Do you want to tell everybody where you're from?
Oh, I'm from Coquitlam, BC. And yeah, I just kind of live up the hill from Kelly and Sabina.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Nice. I see Sam. Do you want to unmute yourself, Sam, and come on?
Sam, please. Sam, you're muted there. There you go.
I know my phone is sitting on my daughter's little beanbag thing, and it's hard to get the unmute button. It's such a small little button. Oh, I guess I can take my hand down. Morning, everyone. I'm Sam Van Born, and I'm in North Van, and I can't stay all day today, but I'm looking back. I'm kind of a note taker, so when things kind of pop up and they resonate with me, I like to write them down. So I'm going to specifically talk about Barbara, since it's the last one that I attended, I guess. And some of the things was, you don't have to respect every thought. We are not our thoughts, and they are fluid and they come and go, so they don't stay. And get curious about what we don't know. And just because you have a thought, it doesn't mean it's right.
Oh, I love it. Love it. Sam, some people in the room might not know where North Van is.
Oh, okay. I'm in North Van, British Columbia, and specifically more so Inland Valley. So we're on what's called the North Shore. I'm close to the mountains and I'm close to the water, so it's pretty cool.
Yes, yes, it is. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Would anybody else like to share? Sabina, please. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, well, I've become very good friends with Kelly. I just live above her. It's kind of like a little joke, but I have received so much value from Kelly's teachings of the three principles. And I just kind of wanted to share that. I think what stuck out for me was the overthinking. I had so many thoughts, and it was just, I got to do this, got to do that, and always judging every thought, or, just, it was difficult. And once I practiced the three principles of subtractive, like just getting rid of that and just being in the present moment and just actively listening to be fascinated about the other person, changed so much for me. And so today I'm here to listen to Lila again, and I had the pleasure of being in her class as well. So that also helped with my relationship, believe it or not. I realized that through my relationship with my husband, I had thoughts of what he needed to be instead of who he was. And so that actually helped a lot to have us have a better time. So that's my little input for today. So I'm really excited to see Lila today.
Thanks, Sabina. Lovely to have you. Would anybody else like to say? I see that in the chat, Mark, you said hello. Would you like to say hello? I just noticed you're from the UK. Somebody from distant shores. Anybody else? Yeah. Go ahead. Hi. Welcome.
Yeah, sure. Hi. And a very good evening to everybody from a rather cold UK at the moment. But I guess some of you guys over the other side of the Atlantic will be experiencing some cold as well. I mean, I've been around the three principles for a few years, only really getting properly immersed this year. Attended where am I? This is 21. I'm talking about 2020. And I went to the 3P conference, or the virtual conference, and had quite a profound experience from that. And that's led to my getting more involved. I've just completed, along with Kyrie, the Jamie's Thriving Coaches Blueprints. I've just done that for 12 weeks. And I'm just doing another 6 weeks now with Nicola Bird as well. So I just started that program, and in fact, I've got a call at 8 o'clock tonight UK time with Nicola Bird, and I know that she will have a few people from the other side of the Atlantic as well joining that call. So for me, one of the things that I experience a lot of is anxious thinking, and I know I'm not alone there. So it's just trying to come to the understanding that is that it is simply being human, is to have anxious thinking, and to recognize that, and in so doing it will simply dissipate of its own accord. So it is being aware of that, and it's not something I'm an expert in yet by any means, but certainly that recognizing it helps me deal with it much more quickly and readily than I might otherwise before I came across the 3 principles. So I'm looking forward to hearing more from your speaker tonight, and it's great to be here along with all your other guests as well as. So a very good evening from the UK.
Thank you so much, and a good evening to you as well. It's lovely to have people from across the world. That I just think that is just so amazing. I know that we're in the world of technology, Mark. Yeah, just the idea that you can come and be a part of something and join in, and we get to meet you. And thank you for sharing the experiences with Jamie, Nicola, so many. There's just so many beautiful practitioners out there that we can work with. So I just love your sharing. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to share? I know who I want to hear from.
Okay.
But I'd love to. Yeah, please. Who's
Nicholas put up his hand.
Nicholas, please. Yes. Hello. Where are you?
Hello.
Where are you? Where are you? Oh, there. Okay. I see a black screen. I see your hand.
Yeah, I'm in the car right now. I'm driving my daughter to her training.
Beautiful.
But I must check in and listen to this wonderful web, Kelly, and they give me a lot of insight every time I listen to them.
Oh, terrific.
So I have got the insight of 3P for about a year ago here in Sweden, and it's growing all the time when I'm listening to webinars with the old 3P teachers that you brought into this webinars, and I love them. So I appreciate them very much, and thanks for holding them.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for coming. I have to say, for some people that may not know, this has just been a labor of love. It really has. It started with an insight I had around seeing the circumstances with 2020, realizing my own circumstances in 2020, and thinking that I had so much gifted to me in the way of insights and understandings by taking some of these free opportunities that the community and practitioners of 3 principles offered. And I knew who I knew. And what I mean by that is that Elsie and I had made a nice friendship, and I knew Jan and Chip Chipman because I spent 3 years in the school over in Salt Spring, and I knew they had the same type of heart. And when I ended up getting enough courage to ask them, they all came. And so it's my pleasure and honor more than anything. It's my honor to be able to do this. And I know people are looking around going, who the heck is this Kelly Mabel? Right? Who is she? And I'm asking I'm saying the same thing, like, what is going on? But I just keep asking, they just keep coming. And if we can do this for the year, I'll do it. Because the opportunities are that everyone here in this room has something to share insightfully. And so we may come to the, end of the lineup of originals. Thank you very much, Nicholas. The originals, but yet you are all the insightful beings that I would like to share wisdom with. So if you want to keep coming, I want to keep being here, and we'll just keep it going. And so I am blessed to say that we do have 2 more speakers to come. And one of them I can give a sneak preview. That will be Dr. Linda Pettit. And she has not confirmed a date yet, but I'm more than ecstatic that she's coming, because she along with all the rest is an original. And I have one little small secret one that hasn't given me a confirmed yes, but they're looking at their schedule, and that will be exciting as well. But I have to be honest that my learning is that no one is any bigger than anybody else. No one is any more than anybody else. That you are all equally divinely insightful and full of fresh thinking. And that's why I love sharing the room, because you'll notice most of what I do is not self-promotion. I want it to be about you. So in carrying on the conversation, we still have 13 minutes of juicy time to go. So who would like to have a share, have a go? Help me out, Kari, if you see a hand before I do.
And I'll share.
Please, yes.
Yay. I feel so lucky to have met Kelly, and we're a recent friendship, but it is one of those things you meet people and you go, wow, I was supposed to meet you. So it was at one of Jamie's boot camps or Clarity Lives, I think it was. So my story in coming to the principles, and it's funny where you see like Lila is taking on relationship, and it comes a little bit from like what your journey is to in coming to the three principles. And I often consider myself quite a hybrid. I rescue hybrid dogs, so I'm also a hybrid. Maybe that's why I have an affinity for rescuing hybrid dogs. But I love that I'm an infusion of everything. But the three principles for sure landed for me in a time where I was hitting the burnout wall as a healthcare practitioner. I'm a chiropractor by professional trade. I was in clinical practice for 21 years, and I have just left clinical practice. I've coached from this insightful way for the last 3 years, and I just started to see that this was the access for people. And my little like thing that I hold to and what I saw was that when I was forced to slow down, when I slowed down was my access to actually witnessing me before the conversation of me. I literally got a visceral experience of that. And so in my conversations with people, I take them through an experience of what it feels like to slow down here, so that clarity comes through and you become more effective and your health improves and physiology follows. So I'm still really in many ways doing much more of a health impact for people, but in a little bit of a different avenue. And it's changing lives, and it feels I just feel so blessed to be in this community. It's a very generous community. Unlike being in healthcare, I will tell you, there's a business behind it, and it's very competitive, and it doesn't feel good as a healthcare practitioner to be in that. Especially my heart always was in conflict around that. So this really feels like a full give, a full service. And so thank you, Kelly, for your grace and your gift of choosing to be here and be a stand for the possibility for all these people to have insight, which again, we're all insightful, but where is the conversation happening to allow us to see that we are insightful? So thank you.
Thank you, my new friend. Thank you so much. And it is new friends. This is what happens. It's very fast and furious. We become connected because it's the depth of the conversations and the vulnerability of the people who show up that create that experience. So for those of you who are just joining us, we're just having some open conversations, but I'll take a minute and just say, my name is Kelly Mabel, and I'm a facilitator of the principles, and I've been around the rooms for about 5 years now. And my, official term is I'm a coach. I'm an ACC accredited PCC level coach, and I create curriculums for people to see freshness, insights, and the wisdom within. And so it's my pleasure to be here to share the principles and the beautiful people that I've met in these rooms, and to host the speakers that have been profoundly impactful to me, as well as to the greater community. And the three principles, for those who are unfamiliar, are the principles of mind, consciousness, and thought. Now that sounds like a whole bunch of information that may be creating curiosity. Maybe it's you're still uncertain, and that's okay, because the understanding of this is a feeling. It's not an intellectual state of clarity. It's more a place where we feel our way into that alignment with who we truly are. And you'll hear Chip Chipman talk a lot about the knowledge that's in our feeling. So when we have feelings that are full of joy and they create happiness and we're flooded with love, that feeling is giving us some knowledge that the experience we're having at that moment is in alignment with who we are. And then when we have feelings that are not the same, they're in a struggle or a conflict or possibly confusion or defocusing, or we're in struggle, that feeling is telling us where our thinking is. And the beautiful thing as humans is that it's a flowing experience. So thoughts are never permanent. And so what I've learned is that as I flow through the experience of life, my thoughts can flow with me in and out. And nothing is any bigger or more than anything else unless I make it so. So what I'm learning is around new thoughts. And what I am seeing is the insight and potential and possibility of everyone I meet. And so when I'm full of love and understanding, I come from a place of seeing people the same. And so I see you full, absolutely brimming. And that's enough about me. So would anybody else like to share, if they haven't shared before, or if maybe you're looking for the courage to put your hand up, can we support you and just saying hello? Philip, yes, Philip. Hello, Philip.
Hello there. Nice to see you all. I'm Philip, and I'm also from Sweden. I work in the IT business, and I've been doing so for several years. And I think it was about 3.5 years ago I heard about the three principles. And it took me quite a while to really get it. I mean, first it was just some intellectual thing, and it, my thinking was more like speeding up. But like about a year ago, I met Niklas at a coach academy that we held here in Sweden with the two best coaches that we have here. And well, that really changed everything for me in terms of the understanding and so on. And I really just wanted to go to the course to learn more for my own sake, to have an easier life and so on. But I got so hooked about it, so really interested in the depths of it and so on. So Niklas and we actually started a podcast in November last year, and we have made 12 episodes now. So it's really good, and we learn each week something new.
Thank you for sharing that. And I would love for people to share their experiences of what they've created or built. And Philip, you have one of the originals in Sweden, if I'm not mistaken. Her name is Mara Gleason. Mara Olsen, which is One Thought. She wrote a book on One Thought.
And I think she's from Denmark, but that's really close. So it's okay.
I have to say, I'm a little bit globally challenged when it comes to that, so thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Mara lives in Chicago now.
Oh, is she now? Okay, terrific.
Working on one solution. She's working with, sorry, I won't say too much, but she's working with youth and youth violence in Chicago.
Okay, thank you, Sharon, because Sharon's our go-to. She's our a beautiful woman who keeps me aligned with everything current. Thank you very much. I did contact Mara, and unfortunately her schedule was just a little too full to be able to join us. But I just had a feeling that she was in your area of the woods, Philip, and someone definitely to hear. And thank you very much for sharing. Would you like to share the name of your podcast so that people can have a listen in?
Yeah. So the podcast, it's actually in Swedish normally. At some occasions we will do it in English, and it's called Lyckligare nu, and that means happier now. in English. So we want to point to the deeper sense of happiness that you can find in the now, in the big now.
Terrific. Awesome. And I have to say that I'm very, very, very happy that Philip has invited me to come and join and do one of his beautiful webinars with him. So thank you for that opportunity, and I am beyond excited. I am going to say that, Kari, can you just go through the chat and just confirm some of those questions? It was Mara Olson, Pamela D, that was looking for that name. And we have 3 minutes left before we get to Lila, who is in the room. Welcome, Lila. Lovely to see you. I just want to say that there's still people popping in. So if anybody would like to say a quick hello before we begin, we'd love to have you share. Now everybody's sitting on anticipation for Lila.
I'm really looking forward to hearing Lila, because I've heard so much about her for so long, and I don't know if I've been in a room with her, so besides maybe a conference. So thank you and Kelly, I just want to say I love the energy and the way that you share, where you're sharing from.
Oh,
it's really lovely, the kind of space that you create that's so loving and warm and clear and of service. It's really lovely. So thank you so much for creating this space.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I like I said, it's an honor. And I'm about the people. I've always been about the people. So the value for me is in you, all of you coming. I wouldn't be here if you weren't here. And I definitely wouldn't be able to say that I have a friend in Lila Turner, and she's here today, and I'd like to introduce her. Lila, would you like to come on and say hello? Are you ready, my friend?
I am. Hi.
There you are. Hello.
Hi. Oh, Sabine, how's it going? I saw a few faces that I know. How nice.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Colette. Hi.
So Lila, we are beyond excited to have you. I'm beyond excited to have you. I'll speak for myself. And everybody else in the room has come to engage in this beautiful conversation on relationships where we began at 8:30 just before you arrived. And I had the pleasure of taking Lila's course in Lila, when was it? Was it the spring? I can't remember now. I think it was the spring.
We swapped days of the week, so I don't even know if I could do months. I thought we were over that. It was a time ago, but I know I did some walking and some eating in between, so I'm not sure, honestly.
Me neither. And I'm at that age where I don't remember much other than other than that I know you and that I had an amazing impact. But we had some time together. We shared some time together in her offer, and I brought some friends along, and we had a nice intimate setting with some beautiful people who shared relationships. And it was absolutely an unfoldment, and still is, the insights that are coming. At that time I was single, and I'm still single, but I've been learning a lot more about what relationship is, what relationship means to me, how to create the experience between one-to-one connection, and whether that be intimacy or relational aspects of business, or whether that be friends, and improving every day, one day at a time for me. And so without further ado, my beautiful friend, Relationship Ready with Lila Turner. Over to you.
Hi. Well, every room is different. I wish we were actually in a room and then I could get people to, I know people can raise their hands, but I'd love to, it's really sometimes nice to know, if people are here because they're really interested in finding a relationship, or they would like to have the one they're in to feel like a funner one. I don't know. Is anybody before I start and give an intro, want to say a little bit why this topic is interesting to them? And if anyone feels brave to jump in and tell me a little bit.
I will.
Great.
So for me, I have been single for the last 10 years. I came out of an abusive marriage, and I'm a single mom. So the idea and my past issues of dating scared the crap out of me because I wasn't making good decisions. So I've just kind of put it on the back burner, the side burner, and I don't know if I'm ready, but with what Kelly created with our vision board that we just went through, her and her high vibe tribe.
We lost you, Sam. Where'd you go? You're cutting out, my friend. So you just got frozen. You just got frozen.
Can nobody hear?
No, we cannot.
For me?
The gist I got, Sam, was that you kind of came out of an abusive one and you're a single mom, and going into a new relationship sounds about as fun as sandpaper underwear is how I would describe that. Which, like, that doesn't sound like fun if you've had a really uncomfortable experience that when you look back at it, all you remember is kind of like, oh, in and out a little bit.
She's still, no, she's gone.
Oh,
okay, maybe Sam, you can put something on the chat if we can't hear you. Oh,
there she goes.
Then that's really helpful. What about anybody else here? Someone put on the message that they wanted to, I think, enjoy the one that they have more.
Yeah, and Sandra's willing to share. Sandra, do you want to unmute yourself?
Sure. I understand where Sam's coming from. I came out of a very abusive relationship like long time ago, and I have this ability of attracting or being attracted to men that are either emotionally or geographically, sometimes both, unavailable. So I want to change that.
Yeah. Some people say they think their picker is broken.
Yes, I thought that.
Kind of like, like one of those water dowsing things that you only end up in the desert and you're actually looking for water. Yeah, that's brilliant. Anybody else?
Yes, I've actually, I've been married 3 times, almost 4. And I also seem to pick the wrong people. And this time I would like to go through and find a companion that true love. My knight in shining armor this time, and how to actually be aware of the signals and everything that are out there that I just haven't picked up before. So I would really love to have a beautiful, loving, lifetime relationship.
And Barbara, when in your previous marriages, were you looking to feel a certain way? Like, were you looking to get something from them?
Love. I feel that I was betrayed basically in 3 of them. I seem to think I choose men that I think truly love me, but once I'm married, it changes. It's like I've got what I want, now I can just do what I want, and I've been cheated on so many times, and I'm basically looking for somebody who's honest and true and comes from the heart and just loves me for who I am.
Nice. A lot of people can relate to that. Yeah. Anybody else?
Meg, you want to unmute yourself?
Lila?
Hi. Meg.
Hi, my name's Meg Zuccaro, and good morning to everyone. And thank you for being here, Lila. I come along sort of the spectrum line of being married for 41 years. And I am very confident in saying that there are aspects of my husband that I do not know, and vice versa. And we are at this place in our life where he is attempting to retire from his own business. And there's a lot of shifting and changing in our relationship, and a lot of things that have great possibilities to explore. So I'm, at that point in my life of wanting even a fuller experience of life with my husband.
Nice. Rather than waiting for a train that doesn't come, kind of feeling like waiting to enjoy it, you would like to actually enjoy it.
Well, being, I would say being mindful of, absolutely every single day. I don't know how long I'm going to be here, and I don't know how long he's going to be here, right? That's an unknown in life. So to live the fullness every day with each other.
Nice. Thank you, Meg.
Someone else has sent a question through. I don't know if it'd be a concern, but when someone is interested in them, they turn and run, and they're curious about that and what's going on.
Thanks, Carol.
Thank you. Well, does anybody else have anything they want to put in the pot before I kind of give a little background to what I do? Nobody? Oh, what would be really helpful for me? Can you see me well? Because this is this is quite a dark room. Can you see me okay?
You're good.
Does anybody, I know a couple of faces, but does everybody, could you raise your hand if you've heard me speak before about relationships? I don't know how many people have, so 1, 2, 3. So some, but not everybody. Okay, great. So so I'm going to tell you a little bit about kind of how, has anybody seen Usual Suspects, the movie with, what's his name? What's the guy? Yeah, you all seen that movie where he comes up with this fake plan and pretends that the baddie is another guy, but he looks at a poster board and all of the clues to his fake story are on the board. I feel like that should have been. Not many people have seen it, but what I do now kind of had clues to from my teens. I noticed things about dating that confused me or frustrated me. But the first point I wanted to start with is just briefly about me. So I started out my career in art as an artist and a painter when I was, 20. I didn't love the course I was on because my head was like a dog that was never on the lead, and I needed a bit more stability in an art course. So I moved into fashion. They say give you a bit too much rope to hang yourself. I was overthinker. So art for me didn't work out because I needed some grounding to kind of stay still, I suppose. I ended up in fashion for quite a few years, which I absolutely loved because it had more structure than the art that I was doing previously. And at the time that I moved to fashion was when I first started dating Aaron. So I don't know if any of you know Aaron Turner, who I now run a business with. And our relationship started feeling the impacts of the principles when he started learning the principles, not when I did. I grew up in a very technically spiritual family. Everybody was always into, what star sign of you? Oh, you're angry because you're this sign. And, everything had meaning in it, like growing up. So, I'd studied chakras and I'd studied everything by the time I was 16, I think. And so by the time I met Aaron, I had a lot of ideas about the world, but no ideas about what was actually happening in my own head. I had lots of theories about the world, but zero clue that the feeling I lived in was somehow related to thought at all. none. I mean, I just thought if someone's messy or rude or the day's going badly, of course you're going to feel bad. And if they keep doing that annoying thing, of course you're going to shout. You know, I just didn't even occur to me. So when I came across Syd when I was like 22 or something, every time he would say something, I would go, oh, he said spirituality. Oh, I know what spirituality was. And I'm pretty sure I saw purple and wizardy hats or essential oils or something, like every time. Do you know what I mean? But when you listen to someone and you kind of think you know their reference points, so you just fill in the blanks with what you already know. So I was like, oh, he means wisdom. Oh, wisdom was a spooky thing. Like I did martial arts from 16 to 26. And we were always taught that like your chi or your energy was sort of somehow reserved only for Japanese people, and the English people couldn't quite get it. And it was almost as if it was something outside of the body rather than just the energy that runs through your body. Like, it's funny to me now, but I was taught that everything was outside of you, I suppose, or that you had to get. So I was a horrible listener in terms of that there may be something to do with my life might be being created by how I was thinking. The feeling I woke up in might be being created by how I thought or what I assumed was real. But when I first started dating Aaron, there's lots of stories, and we would be here for 3 days if I told you all of them. I mean, but they're lovely stories, but they've really informed what I now do. Like, you know, I've been with Aaron maybe 27 years. I forget to count. We forget our anniversary quite a lot. But there's been pivotal moments that I think would be lovely to share to you that changed my relationship, but also got me curious about relationships and the mind for others and myself. So the first one I'm going to tell you about is when we first started dating. And so what we'll do is I'll kind of just give you this story, and at the end we'll hopefully have time for questions, Kelly.
Absolutely.
Kelly, you might have to give me the old wrap it up or something, because I think I can get going.
We take a break at 10, and then we usually go to breakouts. So whatever you feel in that time
Okay.
is great.
Okay. All right. I'll try and so when we first got together, it wasn't really, you know, when you're together with someone, you're not really a couple. You're just spending time together, and it's just delicious in a way because you haven't formulated that you're a thing. So someone said earlier, I want to feel lighter and enjoy my relationship more and be more fun. That's exactly what my honeymoon phase was like, you know, because it was, I didn't have any serious thinking about us or Aaron. So as a result, I was very natural. I showed up. In fact, I think I was a way nicer version in my life with him because I didn't want to think when I was first with him. I just enjoyed his company. I was kind of, it was just sort of like, everything about it was new and wonderful and strange. And I'd known him for years. I'd known him on and off, but not very well. And I had a very free mind around him for the first, I don't know, 5-6 weeks. It was just like, it would like someone whisked you off for a holiday and you didn't even know you were going. And it was like, wow, I get to go on holiday. There's a beach and there's sun. And it's like, everything felt like that. And then, and it was really lovely. And I think I was uncharacteristically relaxed in that period. And what started to happen is that the longer we started dating, the more it became clear that we really liked each other. But what started to happen for Aaron, and this will be helpful for, you know, some questions, someone said that they get scared or want to push people away. There's this period of a relationship where you don't really spend a lot of heavy thinking about it. And then the thinking starts to come in. You know, that feeling of like, I've noticed he doesn't eat very well, or he doesn't like, I'm not actually, Aaron chews better than I do, but you'll start to notice little things about them. Oh, they didn't hang their coat up, or, oh, why didn't they open the door? Or I'm giving examples that I've heard from women, or, oh, you'll start to see things that will niggle at you. And what starts to happen is you start to get habitual thought about them that starts to be less fun. It starts to be more routine thoughts. When they're talking, instead of thinking, wow, it's so interesting what they think, and go, oh yeah, he always says this. Oh, I know what you mean by that. You fill in the blanks. They start talking and you've already made up what you think they say or feel, which is shocking to me, because there's some things that Aaron does that it took me 18 years to get curious enough to ask him why he does them. Like neutrally, not why do you do that, you idiot? What's behind that? Like, that's so interesting that you leave the flat towel on the floor, the wet towel, and then go pick. Like, why don't you just hang it up right? Well, like, rather than you idiot, why don't you do it my way? Right? So we're dating, but then what happened was, is he decided we started to get a little more thinking. It wasn't feeling quite as light, and he started to decide he liked me more. Now, my relationship shelf life, like kind of like food in the fridge, mine was a year, bang on, done, finished. I don't know, Barbara, whether your marriages had a sell by date, but there's some weird thing that it will just end on that date. It's like, someone looks at the expiration and tosses it out. And but mine was a year, but his was 3 months. And so his relationships would end at around 3 months, and he started to realize that he liked me, which meant he started to think more about, did I like him? Oh, I don't want this one to go. Oh, and so his mind started to ruminate and start to get insecure about. And then I noticed that his feeling changed from being really like, wow, someone just landed me on a surprise holiday, to, oh, he wants something. Oh, I can feel he's thinking. Oh, I don't know what he's thinking. I wonder if it's weird. And so he started to kind of feel needy, and his feeling got weird. Have you ever been with someone and their feeling went weird? And you've all been weird too. I would be surprised if everyone in the room hasn't turned into a weird version of themselves when they decide something mattered or they liked it. Like, even in school, the subjects you didn't care about doing well in, you probably excelled. And the ones that you had more thinking about, that you thought, I got to do well, or it really matters what grade I get, you started to do terrible in. Well, relationships are exactly the same. And so he started to get really, and then the more he would kind of call up, because he was in America at the time, so he was sitting in with his uncle, George Pransky, on some work over there. And the more he would phone me up, the more creeped out I got. I'm like, why did he call? He called yesterday. It's all over from America. That's a bit weird. And I just started to get super wigged out. I'm like, he was really nice a minute ago. And I've heard women and men say this, I didn't know what they were like. I thought they were nice, but I didn't know what they were like. So I started to think he was nice, but I've seen the other side of him, maybe not for me. Now, he was in America at the time, and I decided he's creeping me out. When he gets back, I'm 50-50 on whether I think I might dump him, but I was 50-50. Because the feeling was wigging me out. I didn't know what to make of it. I felt locked into a corner. This is really subtle. Like, it's not like he was stalking me. It was just, he was calling a lot and wanting to chat longer than I wanted to chat, and sending, he just was, it was something he wanted. He was worried that it wasn't going to last. Well, he's sitting in America, and here's the story, and it's so brilliant, because this will kind of, in a way, again, address a lot of what people have talked about. He's driving in his car with his cousins, and he's having an absolute ball. They had like this beaten up red Mercedes car that I think the speedometer didn't work on it, and it was a bit junked up. It was gorgeous, and they're driving, and it's always warmer out there, and he was hanging out with his cousins, and it's always so lighthearted with them. It was just, they were giggling and being very fun together, and he's just enjoying the feeling of being together with them. And then the thought of me comes in his head and goes, oh, what about your relationship with Lila? Have you thought about that today? Oh, good point. Have you noticed when you'll get an insecure thought about someone, even if it's someone you're married to? Oh, good point. Yes, go and think about that more. No, you'll think it's a good point, but you won't look at the feeling of the thought, which is basically, I don't know, stalky intense. I don't know, whatever your flavor is. Everyone will have their flavor. Mine would sort of be maybe analytical and panicked. Mine would be, might be whatever. But he started to think about us, and he saw that he was suddenly not in the car. So one minute he was in the car, the next minute he was in his head, and he's ruminating and thinking, and the feeling's really unpleasant. And for the first time, I mean, you could ask him, but I think one of the first times he really ever saw that he had gone from the moment into his head, and he hadn't gone into our relationship. He'd gone to a bunch of disturbed thought about us. He'd gone into anxiety. And instead of seeing, you know, that anxiety is related to us, he just saw it as anxious thought. I mean, I'm using my own words for his description, but he saw, wow, that's thought. Why would I bother doing that? And he literally thought, why would I do that? And he let it go. He literally just let it go. And Aaron was at that point, you know, he thought if there was a problem, you had to think about it to get an answer. Now, anybody here, raise your hand if you've thought about it and analyzed something to death and then got a great answer at the end. Raise your hand. Oh, Karen's like, yes, no, wait, no. But we keep doing it. We'll analyze and analyze and analyze and ruminate and worry because we're looking for an answer. The answer never comes from that feeling, ever. It comes from we go take a break, walk to the loo, go to the shops, whatever. It's when we're not thinking that we get our answers. So he comes back into the car and he's suddenly present with his cousins again. And something happened in that moment where he saw anxiety. He saw what anxiety did to him, and he saw intuitively how unhelpful that was. So he comes back to the present and doesn't really think about us for the rest of the trip. He's like, if a thought comes in, he just thought about me, I suppose, more fondly. He just didn't get into the worry. Well, he came back from that trip and I'm phoning him up and I'm like, we should get together. And he's like, lovely idea. I'm like, okay, fine, come over. So we came over and he walked in the door a different man. Like he walked in more comfortable in his skin than I'd ever seen him. So what you notice when you really attracted to someone at first, it's really that it's not to do with how much abs they got or what job they do. It's how comfortable they are in their own skin. That's what's attractive. I swear to God, his eyes were shinier. It's like he just looked glossier, healthier, more relaxed. His feeling was so nice to be around. The question of whether to dump him looked ridiculous. I didn't even think about it again. So I think it's a funny story because, you know, you're kind of studying the three principles and we often think, well, both of us have to get on board. Otherwise we're going to save this relationship. It's not true. One person can start to see where they're coming from and the dynamic changes. It's amazing. So that was, I'm going to be mindful of time. That was pivotal in our relationship because we would not be a couple 27 years later if he hadn't seen what anxiety was doing to him. What was that, like a 3-minute experience? And it changed the course of our whole relationship. And it was amazing. So that was one thing that really changed things for us, is that he, at the grace of Aaron, would always look to his own mind and kind of keep steady in the face of the fact that I would be quite moody. So I think that's a really relevant point to relationships, because particularly starting out or even going on dates, I will find a lot of people will have had I have never met a person, whether they're in their 20s or in their 70s or in their 80s, and we worked with women, the full range, that haven't had their heart broken a bit or felt shame or embarrassed or let down or betrayed, with all the other emotions like loved and appreciated. And, you know, but it's the bad ones that we take into the next relationship because we don't want it to happen again. And so what happens is when we're turning up for new relationships, and this is even within our current relationships, we have dating armor. We don't want to get hurt. So we have, you know, like a large fence with an electric fence with some cameras. You know what it means to be really, if you're going into a new relationship and the last person hurt you, to be utterly on duty to make sure that they're not a weirdo. Can you relate to that? I don't know if you can, but I'll notice that one of the patterns that I see with the people kind of doing relationships ready is that they don't want to feel hurt, disappointed, or shame again. So they show up to dates either very self-conscious or they want to take charge. Can anyone relate to that? I'm going to take charge. I'm going to make sure I know where I'm going and what's happening, in charge of the conversation, and I'm going to control it so something that I don't want to happen won't happen. I don't know, raise your hand if you can. Any control freaks here? I'm going to raise both of my hands because that's my skills. I can't see both screens there. But so what that does for you is it makes it really difficult for the person that you're meeting or starting to date to know who you actually are. They can't get a feel for who you are if you're on alert. They just can't. You also make the chance of connection very difficult. You know, it's like going out, if you're controlling and worried and you're sitting there on your date thinking, what are they thinking? Do they like me? Do they like me? Do I like them? Do I like them? I'm not sure if I like them. Like sometimes people show up on dates and will say, oh my God, I don't know, they've got this habit. How am I going to, you know, introduce them to my family? You know, and I'm like, they're already thinking about how is this person going to fit in my life permanently? So what that does is it puts you in a position where the opposite of connection is easy. It's really hard to connect when your head is just full and whizzing with a bunch of what ifs and I've got to be careful. And can you relate to this? Like how much? So one of the things that people will swear to me, oh, I showed up, I was just myself. So ask your friends to describe a date. And they'll start out, well, I started out and then it was this and then it was that. And you'll see they'll start talking and you can tell they were on a date with a lot on their mind. They weren't like easy, free, relaxed, present, open. Can you see it? If you can see it in your friends, it's starting to see it in yourself. You are not showing up as yourself. So you're not going to be able to actually meet that person. So another thing I've seen as a pattern in the relationship history of a lot of people who work with us is that they will go on a lot of dates. And because they are trying to control it, or they are worried they're going to get hurt, or they're trying to make sure that it's not a disaster, or it's not like the last person, they have so much on their mind that the connection doesn't happen. They leave feeling a bit weird. And then they think, oh, well, all the good guys are gone. All the good women are gone. There's no one out there for me. Because they showed up with so much on their mind, and they do that. Now, a number of times you'll think, oh, I've had one lady say to me, well, what if I'm just supposed to be on my own forever? And I'm like, that makes no sense to me. You could conclude that. I hear people say, oh, why would I go on dates if it's so much easier to just put my energy into my friends and my work? I'd rather go home and watch Star Trek, one lady said. I thought it was awesome. She's like, I'd rather go home and watch reruns of Star Trek. I'm like, I love that. But the reason that's in the clue, the fact that she would rather go and do that than be on a date, shows that it's unpleasant because of how she was thinking. She's showing up to the date with a huge amount of thought, which makes it just really difficult to kind of be yourself. Now, the second part of it, which comes up a lot, if I'm dating and in a relationship, and this does apply to people who've had, and most people, not most, but a lot of people have had someone be unkind. That covers a lot of spectrums. And they are worried that they might not be able to trust themselves because they're going to pick the wrong guy, the wrong girl. They're going to pick someone again. Here's the interesting thing about that. Regardless of how in your head you are, your wisdom and intuition has been with you since you were born. And it has been speaking to you since you were born. No, it may not have huge bells and whistles and peacock feathers. It might just pop into your head that says, don't go walk down that road today. It might say, don't eat that soup. It might say, go talk to them. But it's wisdom in my experience. And for I call myself like a bag of crazy because I've been quite moody historically, like my thought patterns. Wisdom didn't change its tone. It was always very calm and quiet and unworried about me, but it was always there. So anytime I have done something that ended up getting me in trouble or being a not great situation, it was because I overrode the feeling deep inside that told me this doesn't feel right. You have to override your wisdom in order to do something that doesn't feel right. Because nobody isn't born with wisdom. Nobody. So it's getting a flavor for, what does my wisdom feel like when it comes and talks to me? What does that feel like? And one of the things I've noticed about wisdom is, for me, it will never make logical sense to the story I'm telling myself. And it's quite annoying sometimes because I want to follow the story because I have a preference, because I've got it all tied up in a neat bow. And, whether it's like, oh, we want to move to this house, we want to buy, we want to buy this or do that, and I'll have a really strong preference in my mind, but inside I know, I know what feels right, neutrally. So every time where I've ended up in a sticky situation, so to speak, it's because I overrode that. And so one of the huge parts of Relationship Ready is for people to learn to trust themselves. I don't know if anybody here feels like they really deeply 100% trust their wisdom, trust themselves. You might say, oh, I trust my friends, I trust my guru, I trust my horoscope. But how many of you feel like you could really trust yourself? Anytime you're willing to check in, you can trust yourself. Now, do you guys know what the difference between sort of a story that's trying to talk you into something? Yeah, no, you should buy it. It's a really good deal. And I'm going to give you a stupid example. I think I said this on the weekend with Kelly. Buying something on sale that looks really horrible on. So buying ugly trousers, it's the same. You will buy it, oh my God, it's 80% off, but they're white trousers. They have really large pockets and they don't do up. Yeah, but they're 80% off. And it's the same thing with relationships. You'll try and talk yourself into it. Yeah, but but they're really nice to me, or I think they're really sweet. I can see the sweet side of them. They're a good person, really, but inside you'll have a thought that says it's not right for you. Is this making sense? I don't know if this is making sense to anybody. And it's such a powerful part of what I do in my job, is helping people kind of start to consider that inside, in a quiet place, we always know. We always know. We just have to quieten down enough to hear. And anything in your head that says, I haven't got time to go to there right now. It's a bit like thinking you don't have enough time to go to the toilet. Like, what are you going to do? Pee on the carpet? Like, you always have time to quieten down, but your head will say, I don't have time now. Like if you're trying to get all your things done, I don't have time to slow down and see what actually works. Does that make sense? So it's like your mind might tell you you don't have time, and it's really interesting. And it's our relationship to our wisdom that's really powerful navigator in terms of relationships. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you a little bit here, and then I want to, that's 35, phew. A big part of Relationship Ready, and I started this business, I came in, just before here, and it sounds like people are talking about what they created, what they're creating in the world, the ripple effect. I didn't hear the whole thing, but I kind of got a sense of what you're talking about. Is I had a hunch about this business, that there was something I wanted to do. It didn't make sense on paper. It seemed like a stupid idea, but it wouldn't go away. It just resonated and resonated and resonated and resonated. And so I had a hunch when I did it, but so many things I've learned from doing it. And one of the things that I've learned is that we talk about being in relationship with other people, but we skip ahead the relationship we have with ourselves. So it's worth, whether you're in a relationship, looking for a relationship, wondering whether you want a relationship, have you got time for a relationship, how am I going to fit one in, all those things. It's like, where's the relationship with yourself? How do you feel with yourself? Are you loving with yourself? Do you listen to yourself? Do you give yourself space to hear yourself? Like, really give yourself space? So often we're looking for feelings that we want someone else to make us feel, like, make me feel heard, make me feel loving. You give it to me. I want you to love me, feel me. I want you to make me feel something. And no one can make you feel anything. You have to do that yourself. And what's really beautiful is that I remember one of the ladies, it was really beautiful because I remember speaking to her when she first got into the relationship she's in now. And she had such a lovely, warm, soft, quieter feeling in herself. And she said to me, we'd gone out to dinner, we were just coming out the bathroom, and she said, you know, I really love him, but I feel so different in myself. I know that if it didn't work out, it would be fine because I could just find love somewhere else. And I think that's really profound, because we often get a connection with someone and think that feeling is coming from them. So we get really attached. Don't go away, don't go away. As opposed to realizing that that feeling of connection and love and warmth and gooiness or contentment or affection comes from ourselves. And so spending some time considering the relationship you have with yourself first is going to be the most beautiful investment of mind and energy that you will make, because you show up different. You have something different to share. You're not relying on someone else to make you feel a certain way. Is this making sense? And there was one thing, this is something I really saw this week. I'm going to give you my this week kind of, I haven't really gone into the relationship ready story because I go on for a while, I think. But I realized that when people go out on dates, whether it's the first or second date, and this includes people in relationships we live in, that we feel we owe them something or they owe us something. I don't know if you can relate to that. Well, we were texting a lot and we had this amazing meal, so he owes me more response than that. I'm like, why does he owe you anything? Why does they owe you anything? You don't owe them anything and they don't owe you anything. There's a deeper point to this. It's really new for me to see it in the way I'm seeing it this week. But I was speaking to a relationship ready client earlier, and we were talking about that because she's in the beginning of a relationship. She's kind of blown away by the intimacy. It's really amazing. It's spooking her a little bit. But she was starting to form boyfriend thinking. Do you know what I mean by form boyfriend thinking? Like when you get married, you're like, oh, he's my boyfriend. Oh, he's my husband now. Oh, husband. It's like you think about them differently because you start to think of them with strings attached. And what if you lived in the feeling that you didn't owe each other anything? That they're a person in your life that you get to enjoy and you get to be with each other, but you're not owed anything. You're not living in debt. And I'm sharing this in a kind of quite a lumpy way because I'm seeing it and I'm sharing it with my clients, and I'm seeing that it's taking a huge amount of pressure off. It's not, doesn't mean that someone shouldn't be loving and respectful to you, but it's different. They don't owe you anything and you don't owe them anything. And I didn't know, I kind of wanted to pause there for a moment and see if that point kind of resonates with anybody.
Please feel free to raise your hand if you so choose.
Pamela, do you want to go?
Yeah, that resonates with me a lot because I'm sort of at that point in a 30-year marriage where we've decided to start with zero and treat each other like we've never met each other. And this idea that I don't need you, I want you. And I must admit it's hard to unravel all of that, but we talked openly about it. So yeah, that resonates a lot with me about not owing each other, and not sort of defaulting to the patterns that built up over those 30 years. And it's kind of like dating again. It's fun.
Thanks, Pamela. Felicity.
Hi, Lilas. I think what what I'm understanding from what you're saying is that the relationship, or what we want to get from the other person, is like the good feelings that we want to have, like to be loved and to be respected and all of these things. Is it something that we have to see in ourselves to feel free in our relationship? Is that what you're saying? Something like that?
Yeah, I'm saying that the feelings we're looking for come from us. So
Yeah.
we can't make someone give that to us. We can allow ourselves to feel it in ourselves. It's almost like you let go and you feel that. So I was
Yeah.
speaking to a client earlier, a different one, and she was asking about commitment and intimacy, and but she is with someone who's very different from her, and it was just lovely speaking to her. But I could see that she was looking for connection through behavior. And I was listening to her and I was thinking, God, some of the most intimate moments I've had. I remember one moment, Aaron and I were in the bedroom and I don't know if it was like the evening or the morning, we were crossing paths. And you do your routine, and my mind just got really quiet for no reason. And I really, as he's literally probably on his phone or listening to radio or something, I felt so connected to him and so much affection. I just filled up and spilled over the edges. I just filled up. Whenever I get quiet and I'm not in a story, I fill up. I couldn't ask for anything else. He wasn't paying me a compliment or rubbing my feet or saying how sweet I am or anything like that. Like, he just wasn't doing anything. And I just filled up for this love for him. And we weren't even talking. We were just crossing paths. It was because I got really present, and that's what filled me up. I couldn't get a warmer, more loving feeling than that. I couldn't. And it's just amazing because connection is seen as an external, circumstantial, perfect scenario. And like, what if it's just how connected you are in yourself?
So if you have this connection, or when you have that connection with yourself, then there is no need to sources outside from a relationship. And so that, I don't know how that impacts the relationship in a very sort of much more growing or positive or whatever sort of richer.
If you start with the level of contentment and the feeling you're living in for yourself, and that's the only thing you do, it will occur to you from there. So I say that, and the flip side of it is I quite like being a princess. I like being demanding. I love being a princess. I was late in life. I have a friend who's really good at being a princess. So she likes to go buy herself things. And I'm like, how are you allowed to do things just for fun? No one told me you were allowed to do that. And she taught me that. I call her my Christmas feeling. And so these profound and more spiritual connected moments happen when I'm present, and Aaron may be just crossing the path. He's usually not present at the same time. You know, we might not even be talking. I might just be sitting there working, and I just glance up at him and feel with beautiful feeling for him. And then on a very separate, superficial way, I love sometimes say, I want to be really cuddled right now. Can I have like so many cuddles? Like I'm a real snuggler. And I'm okay being a bit of a demanding princess. And I'm like, I feel demanding. I need some cuddles. And it's nice because it's a simple instruction manual. It's not like I need you to be there for emotionally. I'm like, I just want to snuggle. I just want to really, he's the best snuggler ever, like literally. And but as I've got more curious about the feeling I live in, and to your point, this might not be to your point actually, but it's relevant. I lived in a lot of anxiety. And then when I would get really upset, like a 7, 8 out of 10, like 10 is losing your stuff, like losing your shit. And 0 is Hawaii on a beach after a nap, right? So that's my scale of 0 to 10. I would only ever talk to him about things I needed at a 7 or 8. I didn't know that for 18 years. I would be agitated, wound up, and then I would blame my feeling of worry, anxiety, and stress on him because he's easy. He's right in front of me, and he doesn't tidy up as quick as I do, and he's not making phone calls as quick as I think he should get to that thing that I asked him to do. And of course, I didn't get very good results. In the first early years, I used to try and do things the way I wanted them to be done. No, you don't tidy, you fold it this way. Like, I know I'm total, but like, and it took me 18 years to figure out I'm such a dum-dum. I didn't realize I never got a good result because he'd go on defense mode because I'd be like, why are you doing this? And I wasn't asking to work it out with him. I'm like, get to it. This is not good enough. And I can't live like this. And I mean, like, fill in the blank. It's so stupid. It's like I didn't. And then I remember the first time I stopped, saw I was like at a 7, when I would I would quite like a different outcome than every other one for the last 18 years. And it's not like he didn't try, but have you ever tried to kind of, reason with a toddler that's having a tantrum? Good luck. There's no reasoning because it's not a logical thing. They're freaking out. So you just have to manage their mood until they settle down. And that was me. So I back off and I get quiet and I go down to like a 2 or 3 and I'm like, hey, I'd love to talk about something. And for us, it was mess. It was the first time I spoke to him in 18 years that was genuinely open and had space for him to have his views. Kind of like in a court of law, everybody's allowed to speak their side. In my conversations, they weren't. Because I was like a dictator. This is wrong, and I'm going to get really mean about it. It was the first time, and when my mind got quiet, I had all this space. I got a totally different outcome. Because I saw the feeling I was in. I was trying to resolve, or I was trying to get fresh solutions to old problems through old thinking. So it's like putting on your ugliest trousers and expecting to look attractive, feel attractive, rather. You have a lot of thinking, those trousers are uncomfortable. It's like, that's probably a bad analogy, but the feeling you're living in your relationship, whether you're dating or in one, is not really highlighted. It's behaviors that get highlighted. So read any article in any magazine. Is he respectful? Does he do this? Does he do that? But people don't look at the feeling they're coming from. And the beautiful thing, kind of really to sort of point to Sandra's point, like when you're in a quieter, more connected to your wisdom feeling, you will know what to do, whether it's right or wrong, to stay, go, whatever, how to talk to them. It's like a downloadable guide in the moment. It will just tell you. But the feeling you're in is really important in terms of at least fessing up to it. None of us are perfect. Anyone says they're perfect, I would probably walk the other way. No one's perfect. Everybody's a lumpy human. but it's knowing what's going on and looking to yourself first rather than trying to get everybody to get everything right out there because you don't feel good. Does that make sense? If you want a new, and it's also, you know, it's also relevant to who is, I feel like my screen moved, someone who said they started from zero with their relationship. I personally don't feel like I'm in a committed relationship. I feel like I'm in with a boyfriend that I get to choose every day. I get to choose. And if it wasn't, sometimes our kids will say, promise you won't get divorced. And I'm like, we're not doing that. What if it's not right for it? What if we decide to get divorced? We might get divorced. You know, we're like, it doesn't matter because we're going to be fine whatever we do, but we're really, really into being together. Like our kids are a third wheel. I love my kids, but I get really into like hanging out with Aaron, chatting and laughing, and I get to choose him. Oh my God. Now, just for me, the idea of committing looks like a death to my relationship mojo for me. Just for me. Some people might feel like they like the idea of a commitment that does something for them. For me, it just brings heavy thought. It just looks like, why wouldn't I just choose as I go? It's like when I eat what I feel like when I'm very present, I make really good food choices. You guys relate to this? And when I'm anxious and intense, I make not great food choices, which involves a lot of carbs and chocolate, and I didn't even enjoy it. And then I feel a bit rubbish because my stomach's sore. But when I'm really present and quiet, like I notice when I'm on my own or if people go, family go for a couple of days, I'll eat perfect for my body. I'll eat just the right amount. I never overeat when I'm quiet, ever. I don't even really eat any sugar. I only do that when I get into a fluster, being around a family, which is to do with me getting flustered because I think it requires being flustered. But it's the same thing. It's like when you're quiet, you choose really well. Choose really well. Did that help, Felicity?
Yes, I hear what you're saying, but my experience it has been that, particularly in my last relationship, which was sort of 20-something years, and I had a great connection with my husband. It was my husband, and I had this amazing connection. It was kind of this spiritual connection with him, you know, like my really life companion. But he was very chaotic in many ways. And I mean, that at some point that started to affect me, and I didn't know how to work with that. And I stayed in the relationship because the connection was, to me, what it mattered, you know, what's, you know, it was a beautiful relationship at some level, but at other levels, it was very chaotic. Like, you know, hoarding and things like that, addictions, this kind of thing, which made it painful at many times. And then he passed away about 3 or 4 years, a few years ago. And I have a fear of that, I have a fear of chaos. Although I might feel very connected.
I think I really, it would be really nice for you to consider that if you started to trust a quiet mind, you really will know. You really will know. Like, so for me with Aaron, he's not, there's some things that drive me bats, like things like I thought I was going to get divorced over the fact that he was messy so many times. And I know that people say, well, you can't compare that to other things, but I caused a lot of pain for myself around that. And I had this moment where I looked at him, and rather thinking of him as a house that could always be tidier, or we ought to put a new bathroom in, like he was a fixer-upper, I was like, well, given his upsides, is he worth it?
Yeah.
And I realized, oh, now just for me in a quiet mind, it was a neutral mind. I was like, he's my perfect imperfect.
Yeah.
I could really see that, because I was like, you know what? Stop thinking about the fact that I'm going to somehow perfect his frailties. It's not like I don't have any. It could have been no. It could have been like, I really love you, but I want something else. It could have been. But a quiet mind will help you.
Yeah.
See, the thing with the quiet mind is there's ancient wisdom in there that you won't have learned in this life, in a way. That's my way of saying it. Is that there's a knowledge to a quietness in your mind that comes from you that's going to be wise beyond your experience. So you can't use your experience to try and navigate it. And every relationship that, you know, you've had or people have had has been based on, they were just a combination of everything, of who you were and how you thought. So I'm just going to shut this door in 1 second. I've got the loud teenagers. Hang on.
I just want everybody to know we will be breaking as she closes this particular conversation for 10 o'clock, and Lila's going to stay with us and go into the breakouts. So I just thought I'd share that with you.
Okay. Did we run out of time? We did.
Good.
Sorry
Lila.
about that. So your previous experiences have been based on how you thought, not on who you were, who you are. That's a really powerful thing to consider. They're not a gauge on what's out in the world. They're every relationship I had previous was just a symptom of how I thought about things. And if you're willing to start fresh in yourself, you're going to get fresh thought. And if you're willing to go quiet, you're going to find that your wisdom is so utterly reliable because it's quiet and neutral and doesn't worry about you. And it's daily that I go, oh, Lily, dum-dum, you tried to figure that out again, or you got all worried. Why didn't you just quieten down and see what made sense? I do it all the time, but not when it's important things. I don't. The most important things I do, I clear the desk. I clear my head, because it's too important for me to think chaotically. It's like the little drama things that I allow myself to get my, knickers in a twist about, stupid little things. But when it's important, I'm like, all right. And I click in, check in. So one thing I wanted to say about wisdom, I remember once I was in Sweden with some friends, and grandma was looking after the kids, and they were like 12 and 13 or 15 or something. And they were, in my mind, still little. And grandma decided she had to go and feed the cats. And it's at night. She just left. And I'm quite sort of like, oh my God, the kids, they're on their own. I couldn't reach them for 5 hours on any of the phones. I'm at the airport in Sweden on my way home. And everything in me is flustering. Are they okay? I've got this next door app where everyone's getting broken into. What if someone followed them home from school? All of these thoughts. And it was really interesting. I was like, all right, go quiet, Lila, and see, kind of in a way, go to the sort of deeply knowing part of yourself. And I kind of went 2/3 the way down. I'm like, yeah, still a little bit worried. I'm okay, a little bit worried. And it was like going through, when you get old houses and there's linoleum and then there's a beautiful wooden floor. You have to get past the linoleum to find the wooden floor. So I kind of let go of caring whether they were okay. This is a weird thing to say, but in order to know the truth of it, I had to not have an investment in what was true. I had to not care. That's a weird thing to say. I had to not care if my kids were okay to get an intuitive sense of what was true. So I traveled all the way down past the fluster, what ifs, and I got to this point where I realized it got really neutral part, really deep down, and I waited for an answer. It said they're fine, really neutral, and they were. But it's like, how crazy is that? Past the worry or the bit where we have an investment on caring how something goes, below that, the neutral part knows.
Thank you, Lila.
Yeah, I hope that's helpful.
Yeah.
So everybody, what we thought we might do, Lila had said, are you going to stay with us for a little bit longer, Lila?
I can stay for a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So we like to take a break for everybody just to, shake things out and just process a little bit for 5 minutes. And then we'll come back and what we thought we would have the large group stay. So we'll just continue this circumstance and then we'll break out into small groups and have some personal time because I really feel this experience right now is really rich. And so I'm letting my wisdom guide it. How do you feel about that, Lila?
Great, yeah.
Okay, so we'll go 5 minutes, and those of you who'd like to come back and continue the conversation, we'll be back in 5. See you then. Hello and welcome back. Thank you for those of you who are staying on. It's always interesting to see who wants to continue the conversation. These are a little bit richer and fuller conversations, and they take a little bit more time of our day, but it's certainly been rich for me. Would anybody else have a question or like to propose something? I'd love you to shoot it into the chat and we'll spend a little bit more time in the big room. And then we can do our breakouts, which is always a beautiful unfolding of small groups. So questions, anything you're considering. And I know I have a question because as I sit and listen, my acuity goes to, we had a rich conversation about dating and singles or getting out into the world of experiencing people who are looking. But for those of you who are committed, I'm curious for Lila to speak about those places where, it's been a few years and maybe you're looking at things in a way that has that revved up mind, that has that experience of presuppositions for those of you who are with me in some of my work that I do, where we are seeing our partners as a routine, if you will. Oh, I know he's going to do this. He's going to get up and have a shower, and then he's going to go here, and then he's going to do that. And so, Lila, I'd love you to speak to the married, committed community here, that the quiet mind, when not ever present, sometimes brings those thoughts of like, am I choosing this person again? Or am I clear on choosing again and again and again? And maybe some of the ways that trusting that your guidance, your inner guidance, is telling you the truth. Because I too, I work with deciphering the right people. And I'm one who stays way too long with someone who may not feel aligned with me. And that doesn't mean I don't love them or they don't love me. It's just sometimes not the right fit. And I witness myself being Gumby, like trying to bend and manipulate and contort myself into something that I clearly can see is just like a time to release that I've seen. And the other thing, Lila, I'd love to talk about is when someone shows you who they are, that statement that says, believe them. And then that deciphering in the conversation today about who are you listening to? Your wisdom or the presuppositions that you have going on in past armor? And so that's a beautiful, dance for me. So I'm wondering, Lila, what you would have to say about that, where I'm in uncertainty around, is this actually wisdom saying this one isn't the one? And then that place of like, oh, you're just carry on, you're fine, and then it seems to show up where something just isn't aligned. And I often second guess that wisdom. I put myself in that place. So I'm sure that people in committed relationships do. So that was a twofold. So maybe, Lila, could you speak to the committed relationships where some people are saying, do I choose them again and again? And am I actually at the road where I'm clear? Because we've had a few talk about that place where they said, we're going to begin at 0. So I'd love a little bit more of that, you've got something in there around that.
Yeah. So it's really difficult to decide if if the person you're with feels right when you have a lot of thinking about them and yourself. And when people, if you listen to your friends when they're trying to decide, or they're, you know, moaning about a partner, they're usually very caught up in their opinions about things and how it's felt, and and I'm not having things, you know, I'm not having my needs met, and there's a couple things in this. One is, I think people expect, I think I see this more from women, not as much from men, but you know, like kind of like especially with, I know I'm going to refer to people when they're first dating, but like, oh, he texted so much and he gave me lots of flowers and he was so lovely, and oh, I just was getting all this contact, it was so flirty, and then it got quiet. And I think we tend to expect that just to be a constant, like a subscription that's supposed to arrive in your inbox every day, because that's, and what we don't often allow in relationships is the space for things to go in and out. Like, in my mind, what's wrong with falling out of love for a while? What's wrong with falling back in love? What, like, nothing in nature, the seasons, nothing has a constant. Even LA, the sun comes and goes in terms of its heat. It's like, no, in nature, it's natural for things to have a rhythm, to come and go, so that things get quieter for a while. And I think as women, we tend to freak out. Oh my God, he's not texting as much. He doesn't communicate. What does that mean? And then we get kind of very in our head. And even within relationships, one of the things that I found really helpful is when things aren't lovely, hunky-dory, like there was a period of time where Aaron and I, and it was really unusual, since it was the first time since really I'd got more taken to heart, my mind was involved, where things had got a bit snitty between us. Like, it was unkind. It was just like tit for tat, and we're not tit for tat. But we were like, yeah, well, you did this. Well, can you do this? But yeah, okay. But if you do, I mean, I was like, it was just uncharacteristic. Like, all the kindness had kind of drained out of our relationship, and it went on for a few weeks. And I was like, this is weird. We're not normally like this. And I remember driving home from the gym with Aaron. It was like 6 a.m, and I was curious about it rather than worried about it. And there's a difference. So when things aren't feeling good and you're deciding whether to stay, whether you get worried and then try and figure it out from there, or whether you get curious and interested and like, oh, that's interesting. So the more I observed the pattern between us, all I knew was the kindness had gone and we were being snitty. And now we're driving up this hill and it's still dark. And I'm like, hey, Aaron, I think the kindness went away. And he goes, yeah, it did. That's interesting. That was it. That was the only, that was it. And it was really helpful just to see, wow. Now, it didn't dissolve immediately in a second, but it lost its grip. It stopped being like a kind of tug of rope. Yeah, you, what about you? What about you? What have you done for me lately? And kind of like the rope slackened and then started to dissolve over the next, I would say, week. But it was totally revolutionary that we might have a problem that I then didn't call in the emergency services. My family are drama queens. Like, if I have a drama, they're full board, they're very present, they love a drama. They're not super interested in vanilla, honestly. Sorry, I'm gonna shut this door. Aaron's on a meeting and his voice carries. He's quite loud. And what was really, I was really grateful for this, is that normally when things weren't going well in my relationship, I would basically start to worry about us and me, and what does that mean? And am I in denial? And is there something? So the story that Kelly's referring to is the period where we nearly got divorced, which was some years before that event. Gosh, maybe 8 years before or something like that. and we just lost a nice feeling. We just lost it. It was kind of like, you know, Sabine knows the story. It was like muddy water as opposed to clear water. It was just take it or leave it. I don't know, but I would imagine everybody in the room that's been in a partnership has been at a point where you live with someone and then rather than being a romantic partner, they feel like a roommate. You know, you go through the motions, you live with them and things work out and you do the things you should do. But there's no woof, there's no excitement, there's no, oh, you know, and I couldn't figure it out because I thought, well, there must be something wrong with our relationship and I'm not fussy. I was just terrified. I was like, oh, bummer. Our kids were quite little at the time. And I'm like, ooh, it's going to be awkward telling the kids. It just, every time I looked at Aaron, I didn't mind him. He was fine. I just didn't feel warmth towards him. I just was like, it's like, you know, oh, you. Can you relate to that? And I was like, oh, you again, I guess. And it was funny because with that feeling, the longer it went on, and it went on for quite a long time, I started to get really worried. I'm like, oh man, it's like people who worry constantly that they've got like a serious illness. I started to be like, oh, I'm pretty sure that means there's, you know, fill in the blank. And the more I worried about it, the more it became like a bomb disposal guy in my head. Red, blue, stay, go, stay, go, stay, go. And I just was like, oh man, this is awkward. And I was like, and it's a longer story, but what it ended up happening is we were walking on the woods together and we were out walking and I didn't have the courage to raise it because it felt like a really awful betrayal to tell him that I was feeling this way. Like, how do you tell your partner of how many years, oh, I think I don't love you anymore? Like, how do you say that? And oh God, you know, it's just like, it's like one of the scenes in Seinfeld where everything's awkward, but like worse. And he raises it and I'm like, shit. He's like, I know you're not happy. And I was like, no, I want to go somewhere else. And I was like, oh God, there's nowhere to go. I'm in the woods with him. What am I going to do? Go into the other room? I'm in the woods. He's like, he says, like, I know you're not happy. And I really want you to be happy. And if it's not with me and it was someone else, I'm okay with that because it matters to me that you're happy. And outside of the kind of initial, oh God, that's awkward, it was like a huge relief to have the weight that I was carrying on my shoulders kind of lifted off, because I'd been carrying around like metal-filled sandbags on my head, heart, and chest. It was like, this is horrible. I don't know what to do about it. And the only logical thing I could come up with is it must be that the relationship's done because I don't have any feeling towards him. It doesn't feel like, it's like my roommate. You know, it's like, that's what everybody says is when it's done. And so as we're walking, we start talking about separation. And it's weirdly, my mood lightened because I wasn't stuck in my own sealed container trying to think about it on my own. It was like it was like early lockdown. I can't go anywhere. I'm stuck in, everything's just getting delivered to the door. And as he was talking about it, I literally felt my shoulders relax. I felt like, okay, fine. I started to feel relaxed. And as all my thinking about red, blue, stay, go, just dissolved, I started to feel lighter. So this is to my point earlier, the light, you know, your feeling when it's in a lighter, warm place is more reliable. Weirdly, a lighter feeling is the most powerful feeling with which to make big decisions. And walking along, I'm sorry, a couple of you have heard this story, but the weirdest question comes to my mind out of nowhere. And it says, would you pick him again? If he was on a shelf with Brad Pitt and X, Y, and Z, whoever I was crushing on at the time, I imagined him, it's quite derogatory, I'm sure, but on a shelf, like a toy shelf, like when you pick Barbies as a kid and you know, you can get Beach Barbie and da-da-da Barbie. And I imagined him on a shelf with all these guys that I was like, yum. And I was like, well, would you pick him at all? If he's up there with Brad Pitt, what are you going to do? And then I'm like, I don't know. It's a bit of a weird thing to be asked. My own mind's asking me. And then I wait for an answer, just like that time when I was in Sweden, I'm getting on the plane. And then just like a ball that's held underwater in a swimming pool, it sort of just comes up and goes, yes, you would. And you'd pick him first. That was news to me. It was actually news to me. I was like, what? Yeah, you pick him first. And on my head is doing a double take. It's like, what? And I'm talking and Aaron's talking and I can't even hear what he's saying. He's probably talking about where we're going to live and how separate and what we're going to net. I don't know what he's talking about because I've just started to get this different experience. And I'm like, holy moly. I said, Aaron, I just realized something. And I tell him, but he's so wrapped in his story of us separating. I don't think he heard. Because I'm trying to say, I just realized I would pick you first again. Isn't that a big deal? I didn't know. And it was kind of amazing because I didn't know in a clear mind, that's how I felt. I didn't realize that for months and months and months, I had been living in an unclear mind with him. That dirty water feeling was thought. So I wasn't, thank Lord, I didn't make a decision from there because I wasn't, or if I had made a decision, we'd have worked it out and done something else. You know, again, that wouldn't have been the end of the world, but like, I'm really glad that that decision wasn't made while I was suffering, blaming, and not really listening to myself more deeply. Now, what that moment taught me is you kind of have to have nothing on it in order to know. You have to have nothing on it. You can't be like, oh, come on. It's not the lottery. Come on, 69827. See that? You can't get clarity that way because you're invested in getting the right numbers, you know, like, and it's like not caring for that moment allowed clarity to come through, which was, yeah, you pick him again. And I'm like, wow. And I also felt in that moment, wow, the answer could have been no. I would have trusted that. I would have. And it could have been no. And it gave me such appreciation for people who decide not to stay. But the only thing I work with people towards is making sure that they haven't got anything on it and that they're in their wisdom before they, and I don't mean wisdom like, yeah, I'm really inspired by this idea. I mean neutral truth that won't make sense on paper. And it just gave me so much appreciation. The answer could have been no, and that would have been right for us. The answer happened to be yes, and first you'd pick him first. It was a big shock to me. Now, why I shared that example of the gym, you know, and things were getting snarky and kind of a bit bitchy between us and we weren't being very nice, which was really unusual. I came out of that being so grateful because we were snarky and not very nice to each other. I didn't worry about us. That was massively helpful for me because a lot of the toll I took, the muddy water was my worry. Oh my God, what if it's not the right thing? You can't get clarity through worry. So to have a kind of crappy little couple weeks or snarky or be like, you know, I just such a relief. I feel like I've got these little goofy wings in my brain that are going woohoo. Like my brain feels so light when I realize I don't need to worry because I'll know if it doesn't feel like it's a relationship I should stay in. I'll just know. I might even argue with it once it tells me, if it tells me, I'm like, I don't know what I would do or will do, or maybe it won't ever happen. But to not worry because things get dark or disturbed or weird or not nice to each other, or we had a fight, or just to not lay that on, you know, they say that in like the 70s, 60s, 70s, don't lay that on me, man. It's like, I don't want to lay that on my relationship, man. Don't lay it on your relationship. That's just being human, and you get snarky and you get moody and you get irritated. And why do we think we're going to sanitize our relationships? We get them. But if there's a deeper issue, it's like, if there's something deep down, your body from a neutral mind will tell you. I don't know if that answers it at all, Kelly, what you were kind of wanting to speak to. Don't know what the group thinks.
I'm going to ask them because I know what it's given me. First, a whole lot of humor about some of my dispositions. That's first. And to laugh at myself, to see where my thinking goes. So, what does everybody else say? Does anybody want to share? Because that was a very full conversation. Love to hear from you.
I put in the chat, how is it that you truly know that you are in that space of 100% clarity and nothing else is muddling those waters? Because I've thought that I've been in that space and then maybe I wasn't. But how can you be sure that you're at that, like you talk about going through the steps and I mean, I related to what you were talking about with your kids, because I've done that before too, and getting down to that step and it's like at that base, it's like, okay, if something had happened, my number is the emergency contact I would have heard. Right. So I kind of understand that, but how do you really know that you're in that spot that you know that it is your inner wisdom speaking?
Well, so Sandra, with your kids, it sounds like you're willing to be more neutral around them.
I'm talking more about relationships. I just understood your example there because I could get down when, and my kids are like 31 and 29. So I don't really worry about that so much, but I just understood your example that you gave. But my question is it in terms of, in terms of like a romantic type relationship, how do you know that you're at that level and you're clear and this is actually your wisdom speaking and you're not inflecting anything else? Because I think I'm good at doing the inflecting other things.
Well, so Sandra, with the previous relationships that you've had, where was there, do you remember moments of wisdom knowing that you should either leave or do something about it? Were there moments of quiet wisdom?
Yeah, because I left. or I knew that whatever it was, but it was always very painful. And I'm just kind of thinking of the one I'm in now in terms of how to get down to that base level of knowing that, okay, this is, because I waffle between what is working and what isn't working. So I don't know if I'm making sense.
You are making sense, but the reason why I'm talking about other previous experiences is I think your wisdom's been there the whole time, but you may not, like maybe you knew to leave and then it was painful, but the knowing to leave wasn't. Just knowing deep down, okay, I have to leave. And then we can go into a lot of pain of story around having to leave, or, oh my God, this is really hard. Do you know what I mean? Like we can kind of go in, but I'm curious about the reason why I'm kind of digging a little bit is that I think your wisdom has been talking to you the whole time. And it's a neutral part of you that just knows that's going to help you seeing it now. So I don't know if you know in those, in previous experiences, where you were just, I don't know, out shopping or doing something and it would just occur to you that you should leave, or just occur to you that you needed to do something about it, but in a really neutral, quiet way.
I'm trying to, yeah, because one relationship I left after 4.5 years. I mean, there was nothing really wrong with it, but I just knew that he was doing things that I couldn't accept. And that's kind of where it came in more, just knowing that he wasn't the right person for me moving forward, even though everything else fit. because of what he was doing. And if he hadn't gotten involved in some of the things he did, who knows how long we would have dated. But yeah, no, it's interesting. It's interesting because I'm good with friends, whether they're male or female. I mean, relationship wise that way, it's when my the romantic relationships that I struggle more with.
Well, I saw that in the chat earlier, and I suspect you think more heavily about your romantic ones than your friendship ones. I think you probably think about them differently. Like, would you put up with one of your friends being abusive to you? No, because you think differently that way. See, if I'm pointing to the fact that you're probably much more naturally yourself around your friends. So my kind of motto for Relationship Ready is the most natural version of you is the upgrade. So the way you are with your friends, you pick them easily, you find nice friends, you wouldn't put up with things, you don't double guess yourself. This is what I'm hearing. I'm just myself. You see that? I wouldn't put up with those things. It's not a big tangle up here. You're just naturally yourself. You do what makes sense and you trust yourself. But you turn into a different person in romantic relationships because you start thinking differently. And you'll see it coming because the feeling will be different. The feeling's different. Now, your feeling will tell you how you're thinking, even if you don't know you're thinking. That's really helpful. Feelings are a helpful guide. So if you're sitting there and feeling anxious and disturbed, but there's no particular reason why, it's telling you what your thoughts doing, just the stuff that you can't see. So if your feeling gets a bit, like I was talking about recently, like a ball of synthetic wool, looks like wool, but it's not. It's like really scratchy and nylon-y when you run your fingers on it. It's like we get thinking about that in the areas of our life that are harder. It's because we think about them differently. We use our mind differently. And it's starting to see, well, what if I was related to my partner in a way that I was more like I am with my friends? Oh, what's the difference, Lila? I'm talking to this is kind of conversations I have in my head. They're really basic, the conversations I have in my head. I'm like, what's that? Wow, you seem anxious, Lila. What do you want to do? I don't know. Shall I take a break? Good idea. Like, what shall I do, Sandra? Well, I'm feeling a little bit, he's looking really hard. Oh, am I like this with my friends? No, I don't feel this way with my friends. Yes, but he's doing this. Yeah, but I'm like, what would it look like to just be like I am and pretend he's Molly? I mean, just for the sake of playing with it, because in a way, when you talk about your friends, you can tell that your wisdom's totally capable of taking care of you because you listen to it there. But you just think harder and more analytical, and you get into a tangle with yourself because you think more when it's in your relationship life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. It also doesn't help that he was a friend first, so I think that kind of messes with it too.
Well, that's this thought, isn't it? That's totally thought. Like, if something's awkward, it's because you have an awkward thought. How else could it be awkward? You can only feel your own thinking.
I like that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Hi, Diane.
My mom.
Hey, hello, Kelly's mom.
Oh, you know that.
Told me.
She didn't, but she does now.
Hi.
Hi, Lila. I'm the proud mother of Kelly Mabel.
Surprised you're proud.
I was going to tell you a couple stories. I'm married to absolutely probably the most wonderful husband anybody could ask for. We've been together for 44 years, and it's my second marriage. My first marriage, I had married very young. I met him at 16, married him at 19, lived with him for 15 years, and all three children are his children. But the relationship was never one that came from love and wholeness and kindness. And I left that relationship, and I had already met my husband of now, because we all belonged to a certain little theater group at the time. Anyway, the one thing I was going to say was I knew when I met this man that I loved him instantly, wholeheartedly, for his kindness. And one of the things that started that thought process was because we used to meet with people as a group. I had just had my son, who is now 51, and we were meeting up to watch a football game or a hockey game or something. And I came in the house and I had wiped the side of my pants on the car as I was getting out, and they were kind of a creamy white, and I wanted to get it off. And I didn't know what to do with the baby. And this gentleman, who's now my husband, said, "Oh, give him to me." And this is way, way back, 1969. The men just didn't participate doing that sort of thing. My husband wouldn't have said, "Oh, give him to me," right? But this man did. Anyway, he went through a marriage and separation, divorce, and I did as well. And when we first became together, I knew that he was a heavy drinker. And that heavy drinking proceeded to be alcoholic. And we moved from Ontario to British Columbia, and it still proceeded. And there was several times, maybe 3 or 4 times, that I told him he'd have to leave. But I felt, I think, worse than he did, because I needed him in my life. He was so loving and kind, and he was good to my children, and he would call and want to come back, and I'd let him back, right? But finally it came to a point where I thought, no, I can't keep doing this. And he had gone through a lot of money. He quit his job before they could, kick him out. And he had spent all his pension money, and he had nothing. And so I gave him money. I think it was maybe $500. And I told him to pack some clothing so he didn't have to come back. And I told him to get out. That was it. I wasn't going to move past that. I was firm on that now. And within about 2 days, he phoned me and said, "All right, I'm ready to quit drinking." And of course, I didn't believe him but he had never offered to quit before. But I'm ready to quit. I'm ready to quit, but I need help doing that. So I believed him, and he came home, and we called AA, and they told him what to do. And he's been sober now probably 38 years. And he is, as Kelly will attest, he pays a lot of attention to the children. I have an older daughter who's 57, I think. Kelly will be 56 this year. She'll be 58. Kelly will be 56. And then the son will be 52. So yes, you're looking at somebody who's going to turn 80 this year in April. But my husband's been beside me. He supported me. I've gone through a lot of arthritic operations. He's constantly there. He'll actually listen and do what I think he should do. But your discussion today told me that I had to give up some control on him, because there's often times when I'm saying to him, "Oh, go cut your hair," or "Change that shirt, it doesn't go with that," or "You're eating too much." And I realized through what you were telling me today that that is my still trying to control. And I've got to back away from it. I just got to back away from it. So today he actually left, and he's going to our summer home in Vernon, British Columbia. and he's going to be there for a couple of days because there's some work that has to be done in the backyard. He wants to set a plan out as to how he's going to get that work done. He'll be 84 this year. So we've got a good relationship, an excellent relationship. But I so enjoyed your conversation. Thank you so much, Lila.
Oh, I love that. It's lovely. It's really, really lovely. And you can tell, like, I don't know, it's just kind of like seeing the control thing. I think it's like knowing that you rob yourself of natural feeling.
Right.
When you do that. And it's, I think it's really lovely that you saw that, because I think it must be, and it's almost like, you know, if you let go of some control, you intuitively know what comes next, which is more feeling.
Mm-hmm. And the one other thing that I use all the time, and this goes back, 30 years maybe, is if I have a thought that is not like a positive thought, if it's a negative thought about something, or it's a thought about telling somebody, you just piss me off, and I'm going to tell you, right? I say to myself, cancel that thought. And if it comes back in, I cancel it again. And I cancel it again until I don't have it.
Well, you know, I think if I was to go back to my 16-year-old self, I would tell my 16-year-old self that it was okay to say no.
Right.
And I think that would have saved me a lot of problems, because I said yes to be nice in a ways that I shouldn't have. And I think if I was comfortable with no, I would have all, you know, it's like getting comfortable having a voice, but not having to be agitated about it.
Right.
So sometimes, you know, there's things that people have done over the years that didn't sit right with me, but I didn't know I was allowed to just say, no, it doesn't feel right.
Well, and also the confidence, because, you know, back in that time frame, right? My first daughter was born in 63. You know, in that time frame, women hadn't come into their own, really. They were still looked at, and the men wanted them to be somewhat submissive, right? So it was taking the rest of the years to build up the confidence to say no.
But even like, if I look back at the times I overrode my wisdom, if I'd been comfortable saying no and saying yes to things too, certain things I was too nervous, I didn't say yes to.
Right.
I think it would have made so many of the relationships I had in my, you know, 20s so less complicated, because I wouldn't have built up uncomfortable, resentful stories. They would have been solved by me listening to my instincts or my wisdom. I would have been totally cleaned up. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. That doesn't feel like a good idea. Sorry. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, and I didn't know I was allowed. I feel like no one really put that on the menu.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, I remember with my first husband, I knew that I shouldn't marry him. We were engaged, and I think the wedding invitations were going out. But he had a horrible, horrible temper. And he used to golf with my dad on a very prestigious golf course. And he'd have these temper tantrums playing golf. And then this particular day, he took his clubs and he threw them all in the lake. Well, he came home and he was in this mood. And I thought, no, my dad nor I have to keep putting up with this. So I told him to get out. I wasn't marrying him. I gave him back my engagement ring and sent him on his way. And he sped out like all tomorrow. And I went across and I sat with my girlfriends, because we were at our parents' summer home at the time. And God, the sense of relief that came over me was so sensational. But within 10 minutes, he was driving back into the driveway, weeping and crying and sorry and what have you. And of course, I relented.
Well, you know, it's funny. I don't know if everybody has, but I assume, I mean, from most of the people I've spoken to, have had at least one relationship that was what would be termed as abusive. The one that I had wasn't a long-term one. It was only a year. In terms of when I zoom out, don't weirdly regret it, because it was part of the experience I've had being human, and I learned a lot from it. So I don't have any regrets for, that if you consider that a mistake, I don't consider it a mistake that I made. I consider it an experience I had of what it is to not listen to myself.
Right.
So kind of like if you're gonna go like in La Femme Nikita or one of these movies where they teach you martial arts, so you can be an assassin. They got to teach you how to, work with a gun and learn all these things. And it's like really useful to learn how to find your own voice, how to learn to trust yourself. And you only kind of sometimes get that by doing it. So we I think we have a lot of thinking about, whether it was, success or not. But that sounds like you learned a lot from that.
Well, it was 15 years. I had 3 beautiful children. I mean, I did have good times with them, holidays, laughs, met a lot of friends, still in contact with some of the friends. So yes, there was a lot of good times with it. But he was an abusive husband, and he was verbally abusive and horrible temper. And though he never hit me, he used to take me by the throat and push me up against a wall and put his fist in my face, threatening to, right? So I was glad really to come out of that marriage.
Yeah. You have all that wisdom to pass on.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mom. Lila, I'll just say my mom hasn't shared yet in any of these conversations. So something about this one obviously invokes some insight for her. Thank you, Mom, for sharing. We have about 12 minutes left for anybody who has questions or would like to share with Lila or unfold their circumstances, their relationships. The perspective coming from my mother, who's almost 80, is different than from somebody who's maybe at a different age group. And we'd love to hear from you all.
I saw Mara asked a question. Mara, do you want to ask your question about wisdom, hearing wisdom?
Thanks, Kari.
Okay, just come on camera. Here we go. Okay, this has been such a rich conversation, and so thank you so much, Lila and Kelly, for arranging all this. This has been great, and Diane, just so much wisdom. It's like I've been kind of sitting and listening, and then just like, whoa, all these things came to me. Yes, so just when Sandra was sharing, and it sounded like she wanted to know how to access that wisdom, and so yes, it's always there. And I've known for myself that there are times where I cut it off, that there's something that's in between me and that wisdom. And I'm not familiar with the 3 principles. And I was wondering if there is a process or steps that you kind of like go through to kind of like calm your nervous system, to open up. Is there a process to kind of help you? Is it like take a deep breath, or just shift, or like is there something that you do to get you to that space to access the wisdom that's always there, but to kind of like let go of the thinking and then just accessing it faster?
And are you asking me or Kelly or the
Lila?
group?
I would love to know from you. Yes.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's real basic for me. It's like I will be in a story and experience that will be either haunting or making me worried or anxious or really compelled. And so as soon as I see the feeling of my state of mind or what's going on in my head, I realize that I'm listening to an unhelpful part of me, that I can see that that's just seeing that it's disturbed thought. That's it. It's kind of, that's it, really. I mean, usually the deep breath comes after that, because when you're in a really high story, you notice your breathing stops. You're like, oh my God. And then, and then you go, oh my God, you're thinking like a crazy lady. And you're like, oh, I am thinking like a crazy lady. Like, and just knowing that anything in a disturbed feeling is disturbed thought. So that's usually what I'm dealing with on a day-to-day is no different from kids playing with Play-Doh. I'm like, that feels hard. Oh, okay, that's you are in a lot of intense thought. And automatically, as soon as I see I'm in thought, it's like I start to adjust. So one of the things that my daughter, God, shouldn't have taught the principles. It's so annoying. So I used to go into her room in the morning, and being a teenager, her room would be in a mess that I would think, oh my God. So I'd go in to say, good morning, darling, open the door and see the mess. And like, I'm literally, the door is open. I'm like, oh my God, it's living under an apple. And then you left a dirty dish. And oh my God, you're going to end up living under a bridge. Like my head will go in the space of opening the door to try. I want to say, hello, darling. And what comes out is, oh my God, you're such a loser. Why have you not picked this up? And how are you going to ever do anything in your life? And so, I'm not very kind with my words when I'm overwhelmed. Diane's been on the other end of that. So I would get like overwhelmed, and I went in with a good intention, but I got so overwhelmed by what looks like she's not on top of it. What are you doing there? That's really messy. You can't leave food rotting there. We're going to get rats. And look, that feeling when you get like triggered, whatever it is. It might be looking at your bank statement or looking at the news. You get triggered by your own thought. And I didn't see, but I would go in and wonder why I left. And she'd always be like, leave me alone. And I'm like, what? I just went in to say good morning. And she said to me one day, Mom, stop blaming your feeling on me. I'm like, ouch. And then my mind said, that's not true. I just really care about you. And I'm looking around feeling, Lila. I'm like, rah! It was like kind of like one of those hissing, spitting dogs, And I'm like, I'm fine because I care about her. But she pointed to my feeling, not my logic. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, it's awkward. I'm like, dude, you hate it when your kids are right. That's why we raised them the way we did, but it's annoying when it backtracks on us, Yeah. It's like, dang it. And I was like, oh my God, I am getting triggered by my own thinking and pouring it all over her like molasses. It's like I'm feather and tarring her. And from the next day, I walked in and would see myself go, oh my God, this room. And then I looked at my feeling, not what I was looking at out here. And I went, oh, helpful. And my relationship weirdly wasn't very close at the time. Strange mystery there. And I was like, why can't I ever connect with my daughter? And every time I go to her, I'm like, have you done this? What about that? Why haven't you done it? Could you brush your teeth? Blah, blah, blah. And it come out, and I wouldn't intend to do that. I'd go towards her to give her a hug, or how you doing, honey? And all I would start to see is what she's doing wrong. Oh my God, she hasn't done it. She hasn't got her life together. I just didn't see that's not loving, that's critical. So I would take responsibility for my feeling and not do anything with it, but take responsibility for it. It's not to do with her room or the apple core under her bed or the papers everywhere. This is me. This is coming from me. And that's, if you call that a process, that's the most helpful thing I do, is to know that my feeling is showing me the kind of level of clarity of thought I'm in. So am I quiet and clear, or am I revved up and intense and feeling righteous and oh my God, and it's urgent, I got to do it now. So the only step is seeing that it is thought, not circumstance. If there's a process, I would say that, because you notice the second you do that, slow down. Even if you're still worrying about it. Like, I've had dental work. I found out I had all this dental work, and I'd been a really good dentist, and I thought they'd got everything. And then I'd sit there ruminating about it, and then be like, oh, you not, it's the dentist. It's like, oh, you're getting yourself wound up. I don't want to choose a dentist from an insecure state of mind. I want to use it from like the most powerful wisdom I can, because you can't go back on teeth. Right? So the only thing I do is see that it's thought, not circumstance. And
thank you. That I'm so glad that you even spoke about like a kid's room, because I had one of my biggest aha moments regarding thought with my eldest. She had invited me to come and watch videos on her bed, and she's typically a very tidy teenager. And so I got to her doorway and I saw her bed was unmade and there was clothes on the floor. And it just stopped me in my tracks because it's not what she usually does. And because it's not her usual thing, I accepted in that moment and I proceeded to go in. Whereas with my youngest daughter, her room is always messy. I never go in. So all those thoughts start coming. And I was on her bed enjoying just watching videos. And I looked up, her closet doors were open and all the clothes in her wardrobe were neatly hung and her shoes were lined up perfectly. And it was such a stark contrast from when I was just in the doorway. And I said, wow, Ninka, your closet's so organized. And she goes like, no, Mom, my whole room is organized. And it just kind of like shook me. And I'm like, what? No. And I looked around and from that perspective, the room was tidy. The desk was organized. Her library was all set up. And I realized that in that moment of accepting and calming and letting go of the thought of this is a messy room, I was able to see a different perspective. And that day I realized that it's my view of things, is my perspective, is where my mind was at, that was allowing me to see a different perspective, because she had not tidied up the room since I've gone in or entered it. It was still a messy bed and there was still clothes on the floor, but I could not see the floor and I could not see or perceive the bed because I was on it. And that was a big takeaway. So your story just reminded me of how that perspective and how the thinking can really get in my way, especially when there's a thought of judgment coming in.
Yeah. I mean, we think the opposite the way we shop. No one buys the first thing they see, usually, unless you're in a panic. They wait until they find one that feels right. But with thought, we go, well, we pick the most agitated one and run with it. And it's like, if you wait for, like you had an experience of having another thought about the other room, but because you didn't, you took the first one as true, but the feeling in it is really helpful because it tells you had a thought allergy.
Thought allergy, I love that.
Brilliant.
I have to grab hold of the room just for a minute. Thank you, Moira, for posing your question, and Lila. So we have 2 minutes left. And of course, wisdom chose that we stayed in the large group rather than going into small groups, which was a beautiful thing for today. And I loved that. And I just wanted to give Lila an opportunity to share with you what she's up to, what she's doing, the juicy stuff that her and her husband do. And then we'll close with a beautiful way of closing. So Lila, what can you tell everybody here about how they can get a hold of you, the way they can participate?
And when anybody asks me what I do, my first answer always wants to be unload the dishwasher. I think that's pretty much feel like that's all I do is unload the dishwasher. But it's not the only thing I do. So I run One Thought with Aaron. So we work with organizations, individuals, leaders. That's, a lot of our work with One Thought is business based or organizational based, but not exclusively. And through One Thought, one of the things that we've developed over the pandemic is we wanted to create a resource that was very affordable for anybody that wanted to get a sort of start to finish foundational feel for state of mind and the 3 principles. So we have an online course that's called onethoughtonline.com, and it's £85 for a year. So you get sort of access to all the videos, and I think there's 8 core lessons with lots of supporting videos, and we've had really nice feedback for that. So if you know anybody that wants, or you want to kind of get a feel for the way we talk about this, take a look. And anybody who might, we're really proud to have something that feels like it's probably less than most people are charging an hour, that they can have it for a year. That feels like it really opens up accessibility for people. And you can do it at home while you're cooking. It's great. You don't have to go anywhere. And you can just listen while you're at home, while you're kind of relaxing. And so that's a lot of what I do, but I also have Relationship Ready, which is very much a passion project. I didn't get into the details, but it's relationshipready.co.uk. And we run virtual programs that cover US and UK and Canada hours. So about twice a year, we run a program which is like a weekend retreat. It's usually, so we have women together and then we do a separate one for men. So if there's any men on the group that are interested, they should message me at Lila at onethought.com. So LILA at onethought.com. And that's really focused. So it's foundationally around seeing the mind and how it's affecting your relationships and dating. And that starts with a weekend retreat of the 27th of February. The next one is. And that really is to sort of really look at how we're showing up in our relationships, the state of mind that's invisible. And then we have a kind of fuller program that follows the weekend, which is optional, which allows you to have one-on-one time with us. So with Susan or I, we kind of usually have our clients go back and forth because we're quite different. And that's to look at potholes. So the consciousness of that program is to really look at how we tend to think in relationships and in relationships themselves in relationships. So I call that, relationship thought potholes. And that involves, you get a video a week for 10 weeks just to watch and reflect on, and then you have your coaching call the next week. And then there's a small mini retreat at the end. And I really, every single time I've done it, it's different. So Kelly was mentioning earlier, like that group was different from every other group we've ran, because we tailor it to who's coming and what the needs and kind of desires are of the group. And what else do? I do some work in schools with youth, which is really fun because kids are very, what's a polite way of saying bullshit meter? I don't know how to say that politely.
Authentic?
They're bullshit, right? Okay, thank you. They're authentic meter. Don't know if it has a ring to it really, but they're really good to work with because they'll lose interest if you're not really present or really listening or really on point. So I do, I work with youth and teenagers as well. And what am I missing, Kelly?
Well, I know you do personal coaching, so that's in there as well.
Yeah, I really love working with people. That feels like a kind of present because I always learn from listening and getting to learn and understand about other people.
And Lila, you also do a lot of work just like today, which is service. And she does it as a labor of love, folks. So you'll be able to see a lot of what she does in service on YouTube and conversations and through 3PGC, which is a platform that you can look at videos. And I thank you for that. And
the only other thing I forgot to mention, which starts next weekend, I don't know if anybody's a practitioner here, but we have a program that's for people who are working in this field. If there's people who are working as practitioners that want to learn with Aaron, he has a mentoring program starting Friday, I think it is. We're quite busy now that I mention it. There's more than the dishwasher comes out.
So many you can't count.
Huh?
So many you can't count.
Yeah. Oh, it's really nice. I loved what everybody shared. I always say when Kelly invites me, I could just sit here for days because there's so much richness in what everybody was sharing and their questions. So it's quite a lot to cover, really, in a couple hours. But I feel like your questions were amazing. I hope I answered them in a way that gives you space to reflect and kind of see something from inside of you. Yes. If there's something amazing happens, let Kelly know and she'll tell me.
Yes, I fully endorse Lila and Aaron, and I just want to thank you and everybody. If you'd like to unmute yourselves to give Lila a thank you and a warm goodbye.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Lila and Kelly. Thank you.
Thank you, Lila and Kelly.
Bye.
Thank you, people. We'll see you next Monday for Janet.
Bye, Kelly. Thank you so much.
Bye for now.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Program.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.